G'day, Mark here again. A video I didn't want to do, timing inappropriate, but I know a lot of people want to know my thoughts and know we're okay, that sort of stuff, after the massacre in Sydney, Australia, in Bondi Beach. Yes, me and Sam find where the other side of the country is literally 5,000 kilometres away from us. It's about as far as we can get in the same continent, but we're physically fine. Mainly our thoughts and feelings, heartfelt thoughts, go out to all of the victims, the people who've lost loved ones, the people who've been injured, the people who had to suffer that tragic atrocity, act of terrorism that we just witnessed. I suppose I'm not going to say we're shocked, because it sort of has been standing up back of my neck for a while now. There's something been coming, and there is lots of things to go into, I suppose. I'll try and put forward what I can about of the situation, a little bit of my thoughts on it, but it's a changing landscape altogether. I'm not trying to pretend to be a journalist or a reporter in this situation, but I do feel responsible out of where our channel is to talk about this and to go into some of the details that I know. I suppose I would preface the whole thing by saying our government and our authorities have blood on their hands in this situation. They, whether that's complete ineptitude or that's worse, I can't honestly say, but I suppose the only way I can put this forward is to tell you what I do know, and to point out things I can. It's going to be a bit fragmented. It's a bit hard to put together. Like I said, this isn't what I do, but I try and do it as well as I can. I suppose start off with last week, how that went. Why was even last week, like I said, starting to make the hairs stand up the back of my neck? There is a bigger detail which I'll get to in a little while, but to start off with, the beginning of last week, we started off about firearms. And yes, firearms are part of this. The government instantly made it about firearms. I suspect, I do have a strong suspicion this is attached to this process. It's not by any means the majority of this process. Yes, the extremists, the terrorists, the war in Palestine to Israel, there's the anti-Semitic behaviour, the lots of things are just as important. But I'm just going to go through last week. Last week, the beginning of last week, the Labor government, I think, filed or put in for a act similar to West Australian gun laws in Queensland. Some that said, no, we're fine in Queensland. No, they're going to do this. But for those who don't know, they have brought in extraordinarily aggressive firearms laws in Western Australia with an end goal, which is now sort of being more owned up to, of completely disarming West Australia. And okay, for the anti-gun people, they think it's good. I think you need to think it through. History tells you a little bit different than that. It's extremely unfair laws on firearms owners, treating them quite aggressively in all sorts of behaviour. I'm not going to get into that, but that was the beginning of the week. During the week, Mr. John Howard, the man who was involved with Port Arthur, and we'll get more into that as well, which was the last time there was a large federal change to gun laws and trying to disarm the population to a large degree, said that we need stricter gun laws in Australia for some reason or other. We need stricter gun laws. So he was in the radar. He said that last week. Sometime last week, I think it was on Friday, I don't remember, Thursday, Friday, that sort of stuff, but I saw this comment on my YouTube channel. This comment was talking about a conversation between politicians, I think it was ex-politicians and lobbyists, talking about a whole new set of gun laws for the nation. Completely new set of gun laws for the nation. Which was down there, but only 3 guns, only no guns in cities, locked up in, otherwise locked up in safes in clubhouses, and a complete re-change to everything. And interesting, well, he's written down what he says down there. And then there's the other larger detail I said is I've known for, and I can't remember how long, someone sent me this on Facebook, and maybe if you're the person you can send it, put a link, then people can see to it here, but was a advert for a position, a federal employee, a federal contract, a federal position for a 2-year contract over the National Firearms Registry. There was this position at $180,000 a year, a 2-year long job that was involving liaising between the public and the media and police departments and governments. It was this high-powered, high-payful job. Went through a lot of explanation. There was a lot of duplicating the stuff on there. I presume it's what government tender jobs look like. But it was about something big happening in firearms starting in 1 month's time. Then I suppose there's also, there's a playbook that our government works with. You need a crisis to make large changes to our laws. That's what they've done. They've done it consistently. We just went through that in Western Australia. Yes, you don't know, do a bit of research, but they did exactly that. Where the police, where the authorities let the ball down and things happened that shouldn't have happened, but it wasn't really their fault, and people died, but it wasn't their fault. It was just the fact that even though the laws we had would have fixed the problem, no, we need tougher laws still because they slipped through the crack because we didn't do our job properly, but it's not our fault. Yes, that's what actually just happened here. So everything said, and I think I've said it on the channel 2 or 3 times, there's a large crisis coming because that's how they're going to do this. So you put all that together, yeah, at the end of this year, something nasty is going to happen. You then go, let's ignore the guns. Okay, just guns, no, not what about whatsoever. You go through this next bit, which is horrendous and horrible, but the anti-Semitism, the Jewish community that we've been seeing building in Australia monstrously for, what is it, 3 years, 4 years? I don't know how long it is. It's for a long time now. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, to firebombing synagogues, to stabbing rabbi, to building. Repercussions are almost none. None for the authorities that should be doing things about, none for the large protests where you can say horrible things. And no, it's just words. No, when you chant, kill a certain bunch of people, a race of people, that breaks every rule there is. Well, it breaks every rule there is for us Europeans anyway. For the white Caucasians, it breaks every rule. But if you happen to be of the right persuasion, it seems you don't get in too much trouble for that sort of stuff. But let's just go with the simple, basic animal, human, whatever it is logic. If you let something get away with things, if a dog just nips, and turns into a little bit bigger bites, and turns into bites people, well, something serious is going to happen. Maybe someone's going to die. It's building up hostilities. You're letting it get away with things. It has no repercussions. I suppose the same way we treat our government. They have no repercussions. They get worse and worse and worse. Well, the same thing happens for this sort of thing. And yes, ultimately, people will die. And ultimately, that's exactly what happened. So that's, if there's not accountability attached to that, we are letting the human race down. So that's one part of it, but that's not the only part by any means. The 2 despicable individuals that did this, father and son. What we now know, or what I have read, and if it's wrong, please correct me, but I have read is that I think it's 2019, the son, a brickie, a guy whose brickie mates, one of the things they mainly commented about him, he wanted to be remembered. Like, isn't that the catch cry of a mass murderer if I've ever heard one? But anyway, ignoring that bit, he was on the ASIO's list. Our anti-terror, look after inside the country borders, make sure that we're safe. He was on their list. He was, I think, moving in the same circles, moving with the same people that are a terrorist organisation, known to be a terrorist organisation. He fell off their list. You might believe that, me not so much. He fell off their list. A year after that, his father was granted a firearms license. Something that It's a lot harder now, but it was hard. It has been hard for 20 years to get a firearms license. If there's any of any other stuff like being a terrorist list, no, we're not going to get it. But once again, different persuasion, or that just slipped through the cracks, or with other things involved here. But so in all senses, they can pretend they weren't knowledgeable about this side of things, but in some form or other, they were ignoring or letting be these two people that were then obviously on the radar in some form or other. I think a couple of months ago, the son quit his job. He hurt his hand. He was going away to do other things. He was taking time off. His father, the father of the two, broke up with his girlfriend, and then there has been reports that they went to Islam. So they started practicing or preaching or whatever it is, Islam. And then a month ago went to Malaysia, where there are known terrorist organisations. So these things are all, they can pretend they didn't know, they can pretend they dropped the ball in the way of our government, our authorities, but this is this process these people went through. That situation is part of where these people come from. The next thing that is, you've got to say really, really obviously, with the anti-Semitic behaviour, with the build-up, with the obvious warnings of things coming, the largest thing that of what our Jewish community does, our Jewish Australians, however we want to call that, does, is the beginning of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach, where there's going to be over 1,000 people in a big open space and doing a happy, friendly gathering. But what could be more obvious than you're going to make sure you need to have some protection around there? No, our police force decided, no, not really. They'll just have a couple of token gestures. A couple of, basically, I think there was half a dozen police officers there. Yes, there were smaller females by the looks of things. I don't think that's really relevant as to the sex of the police officers. I think the fact that there was not, we just had, well, it's 6 months ago now, but where we had over 1,000 people at Parliament House as for a peaceful rally of firearms owners, probably our most compliant, our most likely to not do anything wrong, unless of course you are, anyway. We went to Parliament House, where you have to go, wandered, that sort of stuff, where they had facial recognition drones in the air, where they had over 50 police officers there, where they were armed in all fashions there. So where we were herded into a little capture where you couldn't do anything, and they had heaps of people there. For some reason or other, this situation on part of our Australian community, I prefer much to think of all Australians as Australians rather as what breed, creed, religion they are. They're Australians, but they are all there, and they are a vulnerable section of our community, of our Australian community. No, we don't need any police officers for that. Oh, we just dropped the ball there. I don't believe you. Another piece of information that's brewing in me that definitely says, yeah, we should know this. All over the world this happens. We hear about it in various countries, and the manipulation and the things that authorities and government do, and so, but it doesn't happen here for some reason or other. Well, of course it happens everywhere. But there's a story, and once again, you can find the link to it. There was our Australian police force. I don't know if it was the federal police force or which police force it was. It was over east, but where they were found guilty to have helped radicalise a 13-year-old autistic boy. Someone who had been expressing interest in ISIS. His mum went to the police, said, listen, what should I do? They said, oh, we'll take control of it. We'll do that. We'll try and help him. And then they found that they were the ones they used that as an undercover operation to try and create something. Yes, we have people in our authorities that do that sort of thing. And don't pretend for 1 second our government doesn't know anything about this sort of stuff. But you put all that together, you start to see not, oh, drop the ball. You start to see with, well, wait a minute, we need a crisis. Work out, and why is all this time? What's all this coincidental, convenient timing that's involved here? Now, yes, conspiracy, now that's a tinfoil hat, all that sort of thing here. Well, you can say all that sort of stuff. You can keep on looking at that 4 bottles in a row, and you can keep seeing 3. If there's 4, there's 4. How about stop, kick out all the things that don't make sense and put in the things that do make sense? How can things line up so perfectly to suit a particular process? And yes, a particular process. This is how governments do things. This is how governments take over things. This is how governments manipulate things. This is how corporations do things and corporation takeovers. You set up multiple things to happen in the right pattern, and then you've created the crises that need to be solved by the thing that you wanted to put in to start off with. And then the day after, rather than actually talking about how terrible this is and actually dealing with the problem and saying we've got to look closely at what we've done wrong because we've let you down. No, firearms owners, we need to control them more because there's the problem, which is clearly not the problem. And let's point out that, let's go with this firearm conversation, which I shouldn't do, and because it's inappropriate, because the government can but you can't, sort of stuff. What was extraordinarily obvious is the police were less than ineffective, absolutely bloody useless for the majority of that siege, of that occasion. It was down to unarmed individuals to actually put their life down to and go forward with the, I don't know what chance you're actually talking about. That man just saw him out of the corner of his eye and he was dead. He moved forward with bravery, with adrenaline, with saving other people's lives was the only thing on his mind. At that stage, his family, his life, his everything else, he was going to sacrifice himself to try and save others. And yes, our Prime Minister and other authorities said, that's an Australian. That's an Australian. Those are the same people you're going to disarm. If you'd put a gun in that man's hand, if you'd let him wear it on his hip, he wouldn't have had to risk his life. And more to the point, think about this. I've heard this multiple times now, where he was a better man than me because I would have shot him. You do realise that if you'd shot him after you'd disarmed him, so when he disarmed him, had the shotgun pointing at the father, who's then backing away, if that man had shot him then, our laws as they stand would have probably put him in jail for murder. Maybe there had been some exception made for it, but probably not, because he was then defensive and he was then acting in vengeance because he was disarmed. And he couldn't have, listen, I won't get into it, but that's the situation. There was, what I found out earlier, or just today actually, is there was an old Jewish Russian couple, or Jewish people from Russia, I think initially, that actually saw the father's car that had the, whatever the flag's called, the jihad flag of they're going to kill people to try and go to heaven, on the front of the car, on the windscreen, getting out with the shotgun, and that man went forward and wrestled the shotgun off him. But he didn't shoot him, he stood back, and then the father, the terrorist, got another firearm and shot that man. Then, as he walked away in cold blood, turned around and shot the woman as well. There is no threat whatsoever, but this is the mentality. But once again, did that man not shoot? Because if he did, because of our laws and what we're taught, he's in trouble. Whereas in all cases, if we had, there's multiple videos of people hiding behind trees and videoing with their cell phones of these people, of these terrorists walking around, these father and son walking around with their firearms. If our law, if we had not been disarmed by John Howard and by that convenient organisation back then, that crisis that preceded immediate ready-to-go gun laws, if we had that happen, not had that happen, and we'd started to address ourselves to the terrorism, to the hate that's coming into our country, and I'm not specifically talking about immigration, it's part of the problem for sure, but this hate is being spread all over the world, and it's not going to be stopped by anything because it is the nature of what it is. It will transfer. If you have people traveling, if you have social media, if you have any form of connection, it is growing. It is a specific part of religion that is driving some of this stuff. And if we'd started to react to that and we've decided, okay, those same heroes, those same people, these good, they're going to stand up for the right people, Australians, if you had let them be armed, none of this would probably happen. Not only could have they stopped it halfway, but or stopped it where the police first weren't, but they probably, if you had an armed society, a well-mannered armed society, then would they necessarily have done this? Would they have even tried? There are statistics to say that a well-armed society, even when there is lots of arms and there is some of this sort of stuff that happens, it doesn't happen anywhere near as badly. It doesn't go anywhere near as badly because the people shoot back. Because you can't have a police officer to every person to protect them from it. I would go down the roads of, we want to talk about how even our society is getting more and more violent, and how women, the smaller of our community, of our race, is in danger. If you really have that situation, why don't you let them be armed? Why don't you? Anyway, that's another conversation. It's a firearm conversation. I suppose ultimately I come back to the same place. Our Australian government, some of our authorities have blood on their hands. Whether it is, as they are going to end up telling you, it was, oopsie, we just missed that, we just dropped the ball there, yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah, listen, I don't believe in circumstance at that level. I do not believe circumstance that is so perfectly timed all the time. There was the obvious thing of they are, and we're about to find out, they haven't told us yet, but they're over the next month or so, they're going to move into what the real plan is. So the writing's been on the wall for a fair while. As for, that's just the firearm side of things is what I'm talking about there. As for the bigger play of what they're using, the terrorism against the Jewish community, and whether it's the Palestine and Israel and jihad or the Mossad or all those things. The main thing that I see, the government strategy there is keep us divided, keep us all frightened and hating each other. That's the key ingredient to control. The main way I see to fix this is government accountability and authority figure guarantee accountability. People should be fired. Agencies should stand up and say we should have, where it's a royal commission into this situation, or a coronial inquest into what actually happened here, go deeper into it. But it should be something public, and it needs to have accountability attached to it. Certainly when it comes to changing new laws, making things different, whether it's the pushing in a heavier social media ban, I see the firearms angle to this. Yes, they're going to change that, try and disarm the population. Probably go into, we'll have to force the digital ID onto you because you've got to know about these other things. They'll have all the powers to do all this already, but they're going to force other things on. They're going to use this to keep us frightened, keep us divided, and to try and disarm us and control us. That's what the government's up to. We have to simply wake up to that. We have to simply stop pointing at everyone who says that and saying, you're in a tinfoil hat, you're a conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theory, used in modern times, used to cover up the JFK assassination. CIA designed piece of information. I think that's what they used it for. But it is designed to say that you're a nutter, and we won't pay attention to the truth. Like I said, if there's 4 bottles on the shelf, how about calling there's 4 bottles on the shelf? Don't see 3, see 4. Stop and look at what's actually going on. As for what we have to do in our community, well, we have to start looking for answers. And I suppose that moves into the big, I'll get more into this later on in other videos, but it means that we need to start to get louder. We need to call for government to change things, to be accountable in places, but to change things. Politicians who are going to grandstand on this, the government's going to grandstand on this to try and get the change that's wanted. There's going to be politicians that grandstand this to say, well, the government are doing the wrong thing. But the politicians we need are the ones that are saying, I'm going to change things. I promise you, I pledge to you, I'm going to change things. We need to push this into the next election, or push an early election, whatever we're going to do, push it into where we can get politicians, we get that world in on mandates, on what they're going to do. Not just complaining about the other side, but what they're going to do. And we as a nation, we as the people of this nation need to come together, need to stop the division. Now that means everybody come together. That means our Indigenous, that means our Jewish, that means the good side of the Muslim side of things, that means our Caucasians, that means our Europeans, that means our whoever we are. We need to come together. So we're on the same side. We have to assimilate properly, we have to come together properly, and we have to hold them to account. The way we do that is stop being led by the nose. Stop being them setting the narrative and us following along with what we should do. Create a crisis. Oh, we'll go, there's a crisis, here's your cure. We'll go, we've got you where we want it. They've just played a very simple game of chess with us and we fell into that hole. No, we set the narrative. This is where we're going to go. You want to get on board, we might vote for you. Well, you don't. Right, rack off. We won't vote for you either. We will find someone that will stand up for us. We need to come together. Yes, there is massive things that are happening here. And I'll come back to all that. I know this is the wrong time to do this in my heart, in the fashion of there's people grieving, but I know they are angry too. And I know that they want to see an answer too. The firearm side of it, it is a very relevant thing. I need you to understand that we are moving into a more dangerous part of our world. You need to be able to defend your own. The police force has shown they cannot. It's not even in their mandate to defend, to protect you. They have to protect themselves first. That's how they operate. So they're not even there to protect you actually. Let's be serious about this. So you or someone close to you, someone in your street, someone needs to be able to protect you. I'd like a firearm in their hands to protect me against this world. If I'm protecting people, I would like a way to do that. So there's things that need to change to get to that place. Kumbaya, a peaceful, loving world with no firearms and no hate. Listen, I'm all on board. You got an answer for that. Let's go there. But you want to just disarm me and leave me in an aggressive world? Yeah, I'm not going there. So that is very relevant. As for coming together, as for getting the political hate out of our country, well, yes, there's some pretty big steps got to happen there. And yes, there are some religious beliefs that should not fit under the bracket of you can believe whatever you want. If you believe in hating me, no, that shouldn't cut it. We need to be braver about this. There's countries that are stepping up to that place. We need to be able to step up to that place. We need to fight that. And I'm not saying fight hate with hate by any means, but I am saying use discipline against hate. This is all doable. This is all something and go, and we can fix this in all levels, but it needs to come from you. Your politicians, the police force, the police minister, the police commissioner, the authority are not going to let the lever off you that is trying to control you. And they'll use every bit of manipulation they can to do that. We need people that fight for people. We need us to stand together. We need to tell them how this is. And I suspect we need to say that one needs to go and that one needs to go. No, we need someone else that's singing our song, not theirs. As for how far that goes, as for what it is, once again, my heart goes out to those individuals that lost loved ones, those individuals injured, those individuals that saw something that they never can get out of their mind. This shouldn't have happened to you. This shouldn't have happened to you. This shouldn't have been let happen to you. But yes, you were sacrificed in some form or other by people that you trusted. It's not good enough. We Australians need to fight for you. We Australians need to find a way to bring accountability back to our country before it's lost forever. I'm sure there's a lot more I should have said. That's all I've got to say today. Thank you much for checking in and seeing what we're up to. And yeah, I hope there's better news to come through soon. Thanks, guys.